What's going on, my dudes? This is Mr. Gardner, and this is Math Time with Mr. G. Today we're going to be talking about relations and functions. Relations is just how one thing affects the other, and then function is how we would graph that relationship. Domain is all of our x values. Domain is when we input something, what we get out of it. For example, how many hours I worked is what I put in, and what I get out is money. So my input is hours. And then when I graph something, the question we ask is how far left and right the graph goes. Okay, so looking at the example below, what is the domain of hours worked? So we would just put a list of all the hours worked. If, however, it was a continuum, which means that we counted every single second you work, we would say from 1 hour to 9 hours. But because it's each individual listed number, we have to put all the different listings. Okay, so I have 4 graphs here, and we're going to look at the domain of each one of these graphs. So this first one right here, we say that it stops at 0 and it goes to infinity. That arrow at the top means it's going to forever go to the right. So it stops at 0 and forever goes to the right to infinity. When we put our numbers into brackets, we have 2 choices. We can either do parentheses or brackets. Parentheses mean soft stop, and a bracket means hard stop. So a soft stop means we get super close to it, but we'll never actually reach it. So infinity, every time I get closer and closer to infinity, the finish line changes. So when I get to 1,000,000, infinity is further away. When I get to infinity, infinity becomes infinity plus 1. So I'm going to put soft stop there because it gets super close to infinity, but we'll never actually reach it. Hard stop means we can actually get to it. I can actually get to $0. I can get to 0 hours. So I'm going to put hard stop. Okay, so for my next one, this is at -2, -1. So how far left does it go? It goes left for negative infinity. And when does it stop going to the right? It stops going to the right at -2. So my soft stop is it gets close to negative infinity but never touches, but stops at -2. Okay, my next one. When does it stop going to the left? Never. So we're going to say negative infinity. And when does it stop going to the right? Never. So positive infinity. If I get negative infinity to positive infinity, that means any number would work. And when any number works, I put all real numbers. And this crazy R looking thing means all real numbers. Last example, I have a line here. It goes to the left for negative infinity and goes to the right for positive infinity. Soft stops, all real numbers. Okay, range. Range is all my y values. That means our output values. Output values are what I get as a result. So I put in work hours, and what do I get out of it? I get money. Range is also how far down to up. We always do down first, up second. So how far down to up our graph goes. It's going to be all these values. And again, we have to put each individual value because they gave us each individual hour. However, if they said they paid us down to the penny for every second that we worked, we would say 10 to 90. So the same 4 graphs, we're going to look at those, but look at the range for all 4 of these graphs. So it's always down to up. So the furthest down my graph goes is at 0, and that's a hard stop. And if it goes up to infinity, soft stop. This one goes down for forever and goes up to -1, hard stop. This graph goes down for negative infinity and goes up and stops at 3. This one goes down for infinity and goes up for infinity. all real numbers. Alright, if you guys have any questions, hit me up in the comments section. Other than that, be kind to each other, ask lots of questions, and think deeply.